This is the voice of Bold Business Radio, and I am your host, Jessica Dewell of Red Direction. You're listening to Program 21, How Do You Approach Planning? It's a skill, planning, and there are different types. There are action planning and strategic planning and life planning and project planning and succession planning. And that's just what I can think of off the top of my head in 10 seconds. Even though our strengths and preferences create our own flair to planning, the core of a plan is the same. It's a sequence of events. So if we think about that, our ability to be able to articulate a plan and then be able to create it and then do the plan, be able to implement it, to get the desired result we want, the outcome takes practice and repetition. What we do with our plans are just as important. The follow-through, we talked about implementation just a minute ago, making sure it's a complete implementation, see it through all the way to the end, that all matters. For this Leaders Discuss program, set aside everything you think you know about planning and join us with an open mind. Here are 5 elements of creating a plan that can be completed within the constraints of budget, money, and time. We might hear some additional and different perspectives from our panel in just a minute. The first, the order of our goals matter. Second, sometimes a plan originates from an unusual place, not out of the need of solving a problem, but out of the need of the think time when we're dreaming big about our business. 3, the more we put into a plan, the better we are prepared for the problems that crop up. 4, deadlines. Dates matter. And 5, being able to communicate openly with everybody involved about things going well as things not going so well. When we come back, we're going to ask our panel, how do you approach planning?
Welcome to the Voice of Bold Business, the show that provides everything smart leaders need to evaluate situations, build relationships, and create solutions. Jessica Dewell candidly talks about the skills necessary to build tenacity and do more with less. And now, here's Jessica.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are in for a treat. Geoffrey X. Lane and I go back a few years, and I wish I have known him longer. He has some amazing stories and some great antics, and most importantly, he knows what it takes to create a plan. And we're going to hear from him about that in just a minute. But before we do, I want you guys to understand the beauty of the Pacific Northwest. This is where I used to live, and Geoffrey still lives there. He is describing the scenic view of where he lives on Victoria Island. And will you take a minute, Geoffrey, and paint that picture for us so we can all come and experience the beauty that you get to look out and see from your house every day?
Well, when I get up in the morning, I like to be very quiet. Usually I'm the first person up, and I look out of the window on the balcony side of our condo, which is on the 15th floor of one of the highest buildings in the city. And we're up on the top of what's called Rockland in Victoria. It's called Rockland for a reason. It's a rock. It's actually embedded into a rock. They couldn't do normal foundations. They had to actually anchor it right into bare rock. When I look out of a window where the balcony is, I can actually see Mount Baker on a clear day, that is, because we look across water. So I never know what the days are going to be like. I often take pictures just to keep track of what it is. But I see Mount Baker, I see the green of the hills, I see the tankers and the cruise liners go by. And as they go by, I can actually follow them around to the front of the condominium and look out of those windows. Now, these windows stretch the entire length. So they don't go floor to ceiling, but they go about halfway to ceiling. We have this panorama. We get people when they come in to visit and they go, huh? And they stop talking to us because they're looking out the window. It's an older building. It doesn't look as flash. But boy, oh boy, did we luck out. But right now, when I look out the window, I can see gold trees, red trees, and fir trees that are still nice and bright and green. And there's a grove of Gary oaks, which are kind of almost endangered up here, but they're beautiful. There's a grove of them just down below us. They got spindly arms and little bunches of leaves. As all the leaves come off, we're noticing the small deer. We have deer on the island. We can see all the deer. They like it down in that part where the Gary Oaks are because it's sheltered, plenty to eat. Mind you, they also walk into the gardens on the grounds and eat everything fresh, right down to the nub. They're not always popular.
This is very different from the experience that I had when I was living in the Pacific Northwest, because all I heard was sky, 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 sky. We were in a grove of trees on 5 acres where our house was plunked in the middle of a forest, and you had to go outside and stand in the driveway and look up to see the sky. And so we had beautiful foliage, and we lived in the most amazingly lush, gorgeous place that had colors that were happening all year round at different times. Even the browns were beautiful when the grass went dormant. It's really interesting, though, because being in Boulder now, the first thing I was like, oh, sky. We had a vacation home in Langley, Whidbey Island. When we would go there, we were just drawn, and we couldn't get enough of being there. And it took me moving here to recognize that it wasn't that I liked it better. It was that I just saw the sky, and I needed the sky to be a part of what I got to experience every single day. And so how far you're able to see is pretty cool. And you're in like this pocket of sunshine, well, this pocket of better weather than like Seattle or Portland or Vancouver.
Yeah, it's a microclimate. It's drier than Vancouver by about 25-30%, and even drier than Seattle. It's a little microclimate. Even on the 15th floor, you get hummingbirds. So you know how bossy they are. They make a lot. When you're out there having a coffee in the summer, they'll pick at you because we've got a feeder up there. When Brigida said to me, put a feeder up, and I said, we can see them on other balconies. Maybe they will come up. I put them up, and probably within 10 minutes, I had one of them going, and they make this little clicking sound, very aggressive. Swat them, but you could never catch them.
So there was some sort of a plan there, a plan to put up the feeder, and then the plan to deal with the bossiness of these teeny tiny birds that move really fast. That's hilarious. That's hilarious, Geoffrey. So let's swing back around. How do you approach planning?
I was really thinking about that, and that's my clue, I think. Before I get into the pragmatic side of things, before I get into the sequences, I think about the end result that I want. So I really focus on the end result, and I flesh it out not only from, oh yeah, I want to earn this much, I want to do this. I actually flesh it out to the point where I actually daydream about it, what it would be like being there. I really invest myself in the end result. My wife has walked in and seen me on the lounger with my eyes closed and said, what are you doing? Planning. I use visualization to see all of the things that I wish to occur. People have said, well, you're planning? Why would you do it that way? Well, for me, until I'm invested in the outcome, into the result that I want, I find that actually I don't do anything. That's a daydream. But until I get deeply into it and can describe it to you and give you almost verbatim what the end result and experience is, then I lack motivation. This is just me. I look at current reality. Where am I now? Current reality. This is future reality. And then I just work out all the steps that I think I need to do to get there. And that produces a plan. It gets pretty detailed the more I break it down, to the point where some of my plans are 3 years long in the making. And I break down, what do I have to do this week to get to the next stage and the next stage and the next stage. I find when I do it that particular way, I get there faster. Sometimes I've started out with plans where, oh, okay, let's start. I start with all the action steps and I forget to put in fully the end result, what I want to experience. At my age, I'm really focused on the experience as I go to achieve whatever it is that I want. Let's take a vacation, because recently I just came back from vacation. Just went off to Maui. I knew where I wanted to go. I knew what kind of experience we needed this time. The previous time we were there, we went hiking, we went all sorts of things. We had high activities, but both of us had been working flat out for 2 years, just really hard. Lots of stress, lots of moving, getting things done, changing things. So I knew it had to be a decompression. You know what I mean? Rest, relaxation, almost resuscitation. You know, let's get out of this joint and just relax. So the kind of place I chose to go, the way I chose to go, the time of days I chose to go, all had to reflect on being easy, being relaxed, being on my schedule. It wasn't about chopping the dollars or trying to do it on the cheap. This was a reward for 2 years hard work. When I set it up that way, then I buy the best ticket that I can at the most convenient time I can. Very nice hotel condo right on the beach in a very relaxed way. So it had a very different flavor to it. I insisted one suitcase, quite small, so that we could travel light, right? Did everything so that we could experience a sense of being relaxed.
I also am a thinker, and I talk to think. And like you, I'm looking at the end result. I'm not necessarily envisioning the experience like you do. What is the outcome that I want? Sometimes I'm taking somebody else's desired outcome, and I am the cheerleader for it. I am the person who develops the plan around it. So to be able to do that, not only do I think a lot, but I ask a ton of questions. For me to be able to create a plan, it's all about the questions first and foremost. There are a lot of people out there who want to ask why. Why do this? Why do that? When I ask the question why, there is a scramble, myself included, there's a scramble to find an answer and give an answer because we've been asked and we've been conditioned to do that. We've been conditioned to give answers to why questions. And while that is useful sometimes, it can also create apprehension and defensiveness and a second guessing of whoever's giving the answers about their answers. And so why questions for me are never part of creating a plan. Usually why questions are part of being able to analyze outcomes and being able to look and together with other people going, well, why did this happen? And having it be external to ourselves as a person, because the human behavior that I have just experienced over time is that defensiveness and that anxiousness will actually cause walls to go up. And when we're creating a plan and we're thinking about what the outcome needs to be, it has been decided this is the thing to do for our business, or the thing to do for our home, or the thing to do for ourselves. The last thing we want to do is get in our own way by building walls. So when I ask questions, they are the what questions, the how questions, the where questions, everything else, the whens, everything else except for why. And I reserve the why questions for at the end after we're looking at the outcome in addition to other things. So what made us reach our goal? What made us not reach our goal? Why did this particular obstacle come up? Could we have prevented that? Because that just improves our ability to make the next plan. And this is where it comes back to a muscle for me, is that we're thinking about what we've done in the past and the things that we might have missed and the pieces, the steps of planning that we might be weaker on or our team is weaker on, so that we can include that in how we move forward to develop our teams, as well as develop ourselves, as well as continue to reach the goal we want in the way we want and how we want.
I have a philosophy about why. It's the booby prize.
The booby prize. Tell me more.
Well, if you get focused on why, you start to lose all of the things that really matter as you experience life. Why is a philosophical question. Why is there God? Why is there not God? Depending on your belief spectrum. Why this? Why that? It's great when you're 2-3 years old, when you're trying to accumulate knowledge. But in a plan, no. Not only does it build walls, it can actually lead you down the wrong pathway. I've got a very good friend who does lots of volunteering. His expression of his life's energies that really gives him real satisfaction is volunteer work. He's a semi-retired businessman. He got invited to help out at the church kitchen, which is on Sundays. And that led to him as a businessman going, oh, this isn't very well organized. Let me help you with this. And then the next thing you know, he set up a little foundation, and then he's raising money. If anybody had said to him at the time, why are you doing this? I know the answer. It's because he's experiencing satisfaction. And the way he's experiencing satisfaction is by using his talents and his skills in a useful way in his mind. I coach a lot of senior executives in communications because that's part of my background. And I teach them about them writing their speeches. And so often they get trapped in either thinking only about the why, and they don't think about either the audience or the experience or what is going to be the end result. They just get focused on task. If you get why and task go together, why in itself as a question, well, go sit on a rock somewhere and think why. You know, some people live by the why, and that's very analytical. Now, I do something similar to you in talking out my ideas. I write them down, talk them over, hash them over. But one of the things that I use that's helped me get better at doing plans is I ask myself 3 questions. I ask myself maybe once a week, well, what worked? What strategies worked? What worked for me? What worked for the company? What worked for the people there? The second question is what did not work? I always ask what worked first, because if you go straight to what did not work, you're focusing entirely on the negative, on the strategies that hit a wall, hit a resistance,
Right.
didn't complete.
And it's hard to recover from that drain of energy.
When you start on what worked, you're starting up here, it moves forward from there. But the real kicker, and the one I find most people don't ask on a regular basis to themselves, is what can I do differently? By asking what can I do differently, you open up your mind to other possibilities, to other strategies. You're not letting go of what your goal is or what your plan or what you're trying to manifest in the world. You're just in a different place. You're open to different ideas. Much more about what I want to create, what kind of life do I want to experience, how is it going to be, how can I contribute my talents, how rather than why.
That's perfect. The 3 what questions to create what we want. Planning in itself is a skill. And so far in our conversation, there are other skills that we're talking about. And in the case of what worked, what didn't work, and what can I do differently, that's just observation, the skill of stopping and looking and listening. We also then have the skill of listening, because if we're working in a team, whether that be our spouse to plan a vacation, whether that be a project at the office, whether that be a group of people that are all volunteers, it doesn't matter. We need to actually be able to hear and understand what the other people are saying, what worked, what didn't work, and what could be done differently, because there are going to be gems in there that we could all use from to build our own skills in achieving the end results, the desired results as well. We need to know what we want. We need to know our values. And is what's being asked of us, is what we are doing or want to be doing fit well within our own value set? Because there will be resistance if it doesn't.
As soon as you step out of your core values, you get in trouble. If it doesn't align with your core values and your core beliefs, you're in trouble right away.
And being able to separate that from other people in your life. And in our house and in my work, Ryan has his core values and I have my core values. And together we made family values that we are encompassing for the 3 of us. I took my values and I took the vision of Red Direction and I said, okay, so here's what Red Direction's values are, and do my values fit into that? Because when we're in the center of everything, especially in a business or especially in a role within a business, right, a leader in business, if we're the center and everything has to go through us, people don't ascribe or subscribe to the values that we have, or they don't mean the same things that they mean to us, we then have communication problems. We then weaken our relationships. And we need to be able to step aside and go, here's how I show up, and here's how my values add to the values of my role and what the company needs to execute its mission and deliver its product.
Sometimes a company start and they grow, and when they start, the values and the expression of the company, its social values, its business values, its community values, are all in the head of the person that starts the business. And it doesn't get down on paper. It doesn't get expressed and discussed. Recently, I've been coaching quite a brilliant young executive who has grown a company, a family company, phenomenally. But recently, he's at the stage where he has to keep hiring because now it's getting so big. And it keeps running into this. And finally, I said, you've got to get your values down on paper, because the mishire is not a bad person. It's a bad, they don't know.
I've encountered that recently too with one of my clients, in the sense that something has gone from very small to very large very quickly. She's adding people and teams and governance to her organization and her project. As soon as she told me that was coming, and I said, well, okay, everything that's in your head, you got to get it out. Get it out, get it organized. Because the simpler it is, the easier it is for other people to come on board and go, okay, I get that. I can join in your planning process. I can join in and help you get to these goals. I understand my strengths and weaknesses and how they're going to help this business do what this business needs to do.
Even though I've got mine really well defined, I mean, mine is all around strengthening the fabric of goodwill that exists in the world. My business, it has to express that. And I'm happy when I'm in that state. Now, most people say, well, what's goodwill? It's that unconscious action between neighbors, for example. When we moved in here, one of the neighbors knocked on the door and said, is there anything you need? Blah, blah, blah. And introduced themselves and just gave us a few basics in a basket. And it was wonderful. There was some cookies, there was cream, there was coffee. Perfect. Unpacking, you don't know where the coffee pot is, you haven't gone to the store, and it was wonderful. That is a very simple demonstration of the fabric of goodwill. All of my actions has to work to strengthen the individual, because it's people that make up the fabric of society. If you think about North America right now, the fabric is getting torn, but the people individually, they're still good people. It's so important to remember that the fabric of goodwill exists all the time. When there were floods recently, it didn't matter which political party. People were helping people.
Yes.
It didn't matter about their color. It didn't matter about how much money they had.
I look at the strengths and the weaknesses of a team. And I've said this before, in the sense of you're only as strong as your weakest link. Well, I consider that to be true, yet what's truer is that when we have a group of people that are coming together for a common cause, the work that we do, the contribution that we make to the greater humanity to keep our economic cycle going and being able to choose what we want to do when we want to do it, or fulfill our responsibilities, whatever those might be, it comes down to we all have strengths and weaknesses, and there is not one person that is a weak link. We all have weaknesses. And so I look at a business and I look at all the people and I work with leaders to find out and mitigate the weaknesses across the board and get the right people in the right roles to support their strengths, and to create plans and prioritization and how to make choices to stay in line with the goals of the business. Businesses that have a plan and that they write it down and they actually follow that plan are 12% more profitable than businesses that don't. 70% of businesses with a strategic plan do not use that plan that they've written down. Hello, the bar is really low, people. The bar is really low. And that's why I think we're talking about this today, is what it comes down to is whether we start with questions, whether we start with thinking, what skills we're bringing to the table, how our values play. It really comes down to the fact making a plan and following some steps, getting to the end, and then turning around and saying, okay, what happened? How can we be better next time? And let every single person learn from that experience so that they can play full in 100% when they're asked to, and they want to do it.
Biggest lesson for me over the last 5 years has been learning how to cook. I've always been an impromptu cook, good at throwing a sandwich together, or good at throwing a breakfast together. Brigitte is just really good at all this. And because I work out of my home office and she works downtown, she's handling a very stressful portfolio. So I start cooking. I discovered these amazing things called recipes. And a recipe with a photograph of the finished product, it's a plan. It'll show you the photograph, the end result. It will show you what you need to pull together in materials and skills, give you timing, give you sequencing. A good recipe is a plan. Well, they call it meal planning. But the analogy for me, who thought, here I can plan a communication strategy that goes over a year, didn't think I could cook. But I can tell you, I'm a good cook.
Look at that.
I've been driving them all crazy because I've learned how to make ice cream. I was given an ice cream maker. So I searched on the internet and I found all sorts of forums on making homemade ice cream. It's on one level very easy, but it's a plan.
While it's very easy, it requires patience. I think we should put that up with our skills too of planning. There's an element of patience. And you know what else you said? You talked about risk. Sometimes people think they're not very risky and they don't want to take risks. I challenge that with them because what I have found out is people who don't like to take risk sometimes just don't like to let go of control, and they're mislabeling it. The last part of making a plan is you can only think so much, and once you go, it is out of our control. All we can do is know we've thought about it. We know what our milestones are. We can find out if things are way off track and work on bringing them back. That's about the end of it, isn't it?
I think control is a fantasy. I've got a friend who's trying to make a decision about a business, and we were sitting down and, I asked permission with friends if they want feedback, because sometimes my feedback is a little bit like getting hit with a cattle prod if I'm not careful, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm. That's right.
So I said, do you want some feedback? You have no control over this outcome. There's jostling going on at the very top. There's a power struggle going on.
We can't control the bottlenecks. All we can do is decide we are or are not going to be one of them. When something is happening, we can decide, can we take action? Do we want to take action? Would we like the outcome of taking some sort of an action? Those types of questions. But in the end, you're right. Once the decision is made, once the choice has been made, well, we know what we expect. But we also need to have the element of expecting the unexpected and being more comfortable than uncomfortable with not knowing, because we don't know. It can come down to waking up 15 minutes late in the morning and deciding we're still going to go do our regular morning routine, whether that be exercise or meditation or whatever it is. And then it turns out we have to let something go. Do we skip a shower? Do we skip breakfast to make our first appointment on time? And then we get mad about it. And it's like, well, we woke up late, so we are adjusting. So why get mad about having to make a choice to let something go? Or, there's another choice. Call and let somebody know we're going to be 15 minutes late. We could actually communicate. We could actually go, oh, well, things didn't work out the way that were planned. What could I do? I could just pick up the phone. Hey, I'm going to be 15 minutes late. Here's what I'm thinking. Do you have the time to scoot 15 minutes, or do we need to reschedule and honor where we're both at right now? And most of us, we don't take the opportunity to do the reach out. We just go, oh, well, I've got to give something up, or I'm going to be mad about it, or geez, why can't anything go my way? Now we're getting into some mindset things, and I do think it all stems from this concept that we can control.
The only thing that you've got is your ability to respond to the situation, the way you described it. Even then, that's a small amount, right?
It's minuscule in the sense of all of the stuff that happens around us at any given point. I mean, we're one of 7.5 billion people on the planet.
Here's the analogy. You take this table tennis ball, put it in the middle of the 50-yard line. You go up to the top seat.
In the nosebleed section.
That's right. That's how much control you really have. One of the things that I have noticed is once you actually make a commitment and a desire, and you've got your plan, you better be prepared for it to manifest very quickly.
If it happens too quickly, are we actually ready? We need to be mentally ready as soon as we're thinking about it.
If you visualized and you thought about it, and then you've actually put it down, pen to paper, and then you've got it this way, as soon as you've done that, you're ready. What people do, I've noticed people to go, well, they try then to deny the power of the universe. The power of their own vision, the power of their own energy.
In the intention that we bring, right?
You know, I'm not ready. Well, shit, you are, because here you are.
We will be presented with the opportunity to choose and move forward. You like that?
It is about choice.
It is about choice. It is about choice. So, Geoffrey, thank you for joining us today for this Leaders Discuss program. You can go to thevoiceofboldbusiness.com/p21, and that's where the program notes will be outlining what you will hear in this entire conversation. Also, don't forget, you can just search the site, How Do You Approach Planning, to find this program. Share your story and your experience about planning, creating a plan, and the call to action is going to be, hello, you made the plan, you're ready as soon as it's done. What was the unexpected plan you were thinking about moving towards, and all of a sudden you were in motion? That would be a great way to continue this conversation and share with each other, and to Geoffrey's point, that we are ready, whether we think we are or not. So make sure you stop and reflect. How do you approach planning?
Subscribe at thevoiceofboldbusiness.com and get more information, program notes, and past episodes. Bold leaders approach each situation and focus on action to achieve a higher level of leadership. Jessica Dewell, your business advocate, is the host of the Voice of Bold Business Radio. Thank you for joining us.